How did you close one client that pays you $10,000 a month?
I think one thing most people don't realize is that to get a client like that, you can't just buy a course and do a little bit of practice and get a big client like that. It's just not really possible. One thing that I did was
Most of the business I've generated over the years, probably $500,000 at this point, comes from relationships, between referrals, between introductions, between strategic partners, probably more at this point.
that's something that I think I knew in the beginning was instead of focusing on the money, you can think, how do I build that next relationship? How do I build that next connection instead of how do I make this my record month?
So I'm here with Florian Rostella, and today we're going to be talking about your journey and some of the things you've learned along the way. I know that you've generated your clients quite a lot of money. You've helped a lot of different people in different industries. You have done a lot more than just email copy. You've written a lot of other types of copy. You've written plenty of copy at this point. And yeah, you've got a lot of experience. So I'm really looking forward to it. And actually, the biggest thing I think people are going to be very interested in is that you have a client, just one client that pays you over $10,000 a month. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad if I say so
Not
myself.
bad, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. How did you do that? How did you close one client that pays you $10,000 a month?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it. I can go through the whole journey if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so I think one thing most people don't realize is that to get a client like that, you can't just buy a course and do a little bit of practice and get a big client like that. It's just not really possible. One thing that I did was I actually got started on Upwork. So in 2021, I did little gigs. My first copy gig was about $13, and it was literally a book review.
Nice.
Just like writing, oh, this book was cool, even though I read like a few pages of it. And that was literally my first gig. And then over the course of the year, I earned about $10,000 over Upwork, just total revenue. And then starting in 2022, I actually got a mentor, and he introduced me to the high ticket consulting coaching space, which is where I specialize in now. And back then, 2022, that's when a lot of these coaches were really seeing a lot of success too. So I got in pretty much at a good time. And then I did an outreach to this guy who is now the guy who pays me $10,000 plus a month. And he had a 7-figure business, so teaching people how to launch their own business in the ATM industry. And I basically just reached out to him and said, hey, like I've done, I have had this experience in the past, and let me help you out with your copy. I see I could help you out with buying your time back and just making sure that it's the most effective for you. So we hopped on a call, and at the time I actually closed him for $3,000 a month. So
Same client, right? That one that's now 10K. Yeah.
yeah, so that's who is now $10,000, but that was I think over 3 years ago now. So
Damn.
yeah, just to put it in perspective, like it's not you're gonna get a $10,000 a month. Well, maybe you can. I don't know if you're Superman, but if a $10,000 a month client, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a process here. So I originally closed him for $3,000, and it was literally just for, I think it was 3 emails a week or 3 Facebook posts a week, and scheduling them and then sending them. So that was
Interesting.
Yeah, that was literally it. And then over the course of a few years, right, I actually upsold him on providing more. So instead of 3, I provided 7 or, more than that, and just more support. So I actually upgraded him to $5,000 a month, right?
Nice.
And then what happened was he had a pretty sweet $5,000 retainer with him, and he started another company in the credit card processing niche. And the cool thing about getting clients and working with them long term and actually building a relationship with them, and one thing to note too, a big reason why is because a lot of entrepreneurs, they value trust and intention more than, let's say, yes, you can give them results, and that's important, but also do you have good intentions? Are you really putting your best self forward and really trying to help them at all times? I think that's a big thing where people want like the feast and famine cycle, where they try to get a new client, try to pay the bills next month. But I think one thing that allowed me to progress this so much was, first of all, he's just a good guy as well, so I have to mention that. But also, he the focus on building the relationship. So, for example, I knew he went to ClickFunnels, which is a event in the United States where a lot of business owners come and network, and there's a lot of networking going on. So I made sure to go to every event every year, and I knew he was going to be there too. So
okay, I see.
yeah, so that was part of it too. Like I made sure to go places where he was going to be in person too. So that also solidified the relationship to where we're more on a personal level. And I think that also helped me keep that client going. And then of course he liked the work that I did and all of that. So what essentially happened was he started another company. He then hired me for his other company as well. So essentially what happened, the real reason why I feel like I got this retainer as well is the guy who was above me. He was a CMO kind of guy. And I'm not going to reveal anything here, but there was a falling out between him and the founder. So what happened was there was a blank space in the company where he needed someone to fill some of those roles, but not completely take over as a CMO. And he literally texted me one day. He was like, "Hey, Florian, you have time to chat?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I don't know what this is about," but he just texted me out of the blue.
Some people would think that's about getting fired.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, "Oh shit! Like, what am I gonna experience now? I got a plan, right?" But
Yeah.
he called me. He was like, so I have his personal number too. So he called me. He was like, "Hey," and this goes back to building the relationship as well. And also to note before this, just to give an example, like he recently got married, so that was a big thing in his life. And I actually went out. I went to Michael's. I literally bought a picture frame and I wrote down like almost like a wedding gift to him, where I wrote down like, "Oh, congratulations on getting married," and just sent him like a heartfelt note with
That's
just
thoughtful.
yeah, just like genuine things, right? Because I really do appreciate the guy, and just in general, like obviously you don't want to manipulate your clients to like think that you care about them, but like only if you're genuinely care about
Yeah, of course.
about them.
You genuinely
obviously,
care
right?
about the guy.
Yeah, and I do, and I genuinely want him to succeed, and so that's what I did, and I feel like that helped as well. So these are little out of the box things that I did to solidify the relationship. And he texted me. He was like, "Oh, this is very special, dude. Like, I'll make sure to link up with you when I'm back in California, right?" So
Nice.
it's back to the long-term relationship building. And so when I got that call, it was a couple of years after I closed him for 3K, so at least 2 years. And he said, "I'm letting go of the CMO. Like, we're not working together anymore. Would you be willing to take on more responsibility? And of course, I'll pay you more." And I
Nice.
said, "Sure, yeah, like let me look at it." And so I took a look, and obviously it was a 5-figure per month deal. So, and of course, it wasn't just email copy. It also includes ads and, potential VSLs or SEO articles, other things like that. But so that's another thing too. You could close 10K a month deals just for email or SMS, potentially if you have a rev share or something else going on. But what I have right now, just don't expect it to be just email or just one thing. It's more of a full stack thing. And that's what happened. So I essentially took that deal And that was in towards the end of last year, like the last half of last year. And so since then, I've been more closely integrated inside the company as well. So I'm in the executive meetings now every week, and I report to him on what's going on, and also talk with a bunch of different team members, like from the sales team and VAs and all these other things. So that's essentially what it entails, is just being more involved in the actual business than just, let's say, writing and then turning it in and you're done. It's more so you're getting involved in the culture of the company and you're getting deeper into it. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I built that relationship up over the years. It takes years of consistency for someone to trust you with more of their company and also to give you that kind of responsibility.
Totally agree with you, man. And this is something that we've talked about actually in the dojo together, is the idea of, creating a relationship with your clients that's stronger than just the business connection, because you actually got to care about them. And I think a lot of copywriters do actually care about their clients. They've never given themselves permission to prioritize them the way that you talk about the way you care about your client, Like, I'm sure they care about their clients. Most copywriters definitely like, oh, this client takes care of me, this client pays me, this client helps me. But I don't know, is that really going to help? Should I really do something like send him a nice postcard? Like they might be thinking something like that. It's like, you actually just got to like take this as permission, like you gotta really care about them, and you gotta really think about them and look for ways to show them that you're on board with their vision. I think that's a big thing, is like you're on board with the vision. But another thing that you brought out is how long it took you to get this client from 3K to 10K, and more. And this is something that I've talked about before. I'm not sure if we've talked about it, but the idea of creating dream clients versus finding dream clients. A lot of people think you find the dream clients, but most of the time you close a deal that's not the deal that you actually have in mind. It's the entry, it's the foot in the door deal with the business. And then as you work with them for a few years, you actually end up creating that deal, like in your case that you've done now, right? So I've had something similar. I had a client that I wanted to write emails for them, but they didn't have any need for emails. They said, we need ads and landing pages. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll do landing pages and ads. Let's do it. So I got on a project basis with them for a few months, and I did their landing pages and I did their ads. And guess what? Their copywriter for email left after, I think, 4, 5, 6 months, somewhere around there. So then I got the email. And then we needed some people to help us to grow Instagram. And before I knew it, I was the senior copywriter, copy chief. I don't know, the title, we never officialized any sort of title for me. It was just the copywriter, but like I ran the copy team. I was like, I reviewed all the copy and became like the main copywriter, So that all came from patience. That all came from time. And I think that, like we've been talking about, a lot of copywriters, they go out there looking for this new deal. But look at how long it's taken you to get to the point where you're in these kinds of responsibilities. I wonder, what do you think would have happened if you had tried to go for all these new clients, like a lot of the experts say, like, oh, you got to go and scale, you got to send like 1,000 cold emails, you got to go close all these other clients. Like, where do you think you'd be today if you had followed the conventional approach?
I would probably be working at Chipotle. That's probably what I'd be doing. No, but I'd probably still be successful, but I feel like the key, I think, is just sustainability and really honing down on your craft as well. Because if you're just trying to scale, maybe you'd make more money in the short term, but you're not really improving your offer. You're not doing the work that is required to actually sustain a client. And that's, I think, where the real money is long term. Also, just even if you're just looking for lifestyle, right? Just serving a few clients very well and just always improving on your craft and your offer. I think that's the key to sustainable growth, because, okay, cool, you made 20,000, 30,000 a month, but what's the point if next month it's 0? or next month it's 2 or 3, right? The real key is like, okay, how do I stay at 10,000 and then 10,000 is minimum and then I go up from there. So bottom line, I feel like I definitely wouldn't be where I am now. I'd probably still be looking for clients, and maybe I'd have good months, maybe bad months, and it would not be very consistent. And that's what I would say. Maybe I probably would have made less money overall, to be honest.
Yeah, those bad months actually make a big dent in your total income for the year. I think a lot of copywriters underestimate that. They'll like have a 15K month from freelance work, and then 3 months at 3K, and not realize that if you're making 7K consistently a month is actually better. Weirdly, like that doesn't sound right. It's like I made 15K, and then 3K, 3K, 3K. That means you made in 4 months. Let's just do the numbers real quick. That's 24,000 divided by 4 months. Yeah, $6,000 a month. So you have a 15K month and you have 3K months. That's an average of 6K month. That means if you had just one client at 7K month, you're actually doing better financially. Probably less pressure, less stress as well. I don't think that's like the long end game for any copywriters. You know, I'm sure you've got stuff that you have in mind. As you increase your skills, you're going to look for ways that you can add more value to the marketplace that, you know, doubles, triples, quadruples your income. But you need that initial momentum. You need that initial financial, you know, I think with our industry, it's actually not cheap. Life's not cheap, right? So if you're in this industry, you have to make some significant amount of money, especially if you live in America. Like it's not exactly the cheapest place to. If you live in a developing country, I suppose you might be able to get away with a 5K a month income. But if I was back in Canada, where I used to live in Canada, I don't think 5K would get me very far. I mean, I was making about $4,000, $5,000 a month when I was in Canada, and I wasn't taking home any savings, and I was taking home like $500 savings, best. And, you know, probably ended up paying that in tax. If I look back, I just probably didn't like count the numbers back then. But yeah, it's expensive. So anyway, to bring this back to your skills, because I'm really curious to know like what it takes to actually deliver for a client that pays $10,000 a month. Like, what are the kind of things that you have to do, and like what kind of skills did you have to learn over the last few years to get to the point where you're able to deliver as an executive?
Yeah, so big one, of course, the bread and butter is always your copy, and just writing as a base skill is obviously required. Doesn't matter if it's emails, ads, VSLs, or any other type. You always want to be practicing your copy. If you're not writing for clients, you want to write for yourself or practice every day. Me, at this point, I write every day for clients, so that's how I get my practice in, and I try to look at resources and then go back and edit and apply as I'm writing for clients. But if you don't have a lot of client work, then just trying to really get better at writing every day, doesn't matter if it's ads, emails, VSLs, whatever it is, that's definitely a good base skill to have. Another base skill is going beyond copy. So not just knowing how to write in a Google Doc and submit it, but also how to schedule emails inside a ESP, or how to fix deliverability so that they get delivered the right way, or how to even manage VAs or talk to VAs where they can actually do some of that work for you, and creating SOPs where you can walk people through, okay, this is what I'm doing, and how do you follow what I do step by step. So that's another skill I had to learn, to not only be able to manage people a bit better, but also to start working with other people more closely, to outsource some of the work, the more administrative tasks, so I can focus more on copy and the creative side, which is what the bulk of what I'm being paid to do is that. And another skill is, at this point, definitely, is just communication, being able to talk with other people on the team, so sales team or again, administrators, VAs, or the founders in meetings. At this point, if you want to, let's say, get to those higher levels of income per client and really start getting more involved, you have to be good at going back and forth with like the website team or the graphic designer, or you want to be able to communicate with different people. Like if your client has an agency and someone representing them, you should be able to go back and forth with them if they need something, if that's your responsibility on the marketing side. So I think the biggest thing is just obviously the base skills, writing, you need that. Going in terms of the work that you're doing, being able to help more. So more of the tech side of that. Also, even, I mean, what I also do now is funnels as well. So I'm actually in ClickFunnels.
You mean you write the copy and you build it as well? Or?
Yeah, so I write the copy as well when needed, and also I edit the actual funnel to update it with, let's say, different testimonials or, updating the pop-ups or the images. I have to go to the graphic designer and be like, hey, can you create this image for me? So things like that, where it's other skills that is not just copy. Now it's more so skills that are needed to actually build the business too, and to put different building blocks in place, if that makes sense. But I would say those are the three big things. So obviously the base is writing. The second block would be going beyond that, like more technical skills beyond writing. So scheduling, ESP, deliverability, being able to like navigate ClickFunnels or softwares like a texting software or Zapier or something like that. And the big thing is like, if you really want to be in an executive position, which I'm working towards, that is communication with other team members and being able to set expectations and talk confidently and represent the company, and having authority, which is a big thing, and being comfortable with that, which I'm still working on it, but it's something that is needed if you want to reach higher retainers, which means you're going to be in the executive world a bit more.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely making bigger decisions for a business, and there's like more return if you get it right, and the team executes. I mean, usually it's just about execution, I think, with most of this stuff at that level. I mean, sure, some strategies don't always work so well, but you can always change it a little bit based on feedback. So it really does come down to the execution. I think we talked about, you finding people to support you with administrative tasks last year, like getting people to help you to do more. And I noticed this is like a trend with copywriters in general. When you get past 10K a month, you start to have to think about what's actually the priority. Whether that means hiring somebody to do administrative tasks for you, like let's say scheduling emails, or whether that means saying goodbye to a low-paying client, or whether that means hiring somebody to just complement your skills in a business with a client. Like there's a lot of letting go of stuff at that level to stay there and have like time and not just be working all day. You have to learn to let go of stuff. Have you found that? How's that been for you? Like that progression from doing everything yourself to now actually constantly having to work with other people to do stuff with you?
Yeah, that progression. It was uncomfortable at first because I wanted to have control over everything I did, because I wanted to make sure it was right. Because if I did it, then I know that it's going to be taken care of. But what I realize now is, even though I don't have copywriters working under me, or I haven't hired copywriters, I have experience with working with VAs and things like that. So it's uncomfortable at first, but if you can just figure out how to create the right steps and SOPs and say, hey, let me actually walk through what I'm doing and write it down in a document, and then create a Loom video on how I'm exactly doing it. And just going through that process and then being able to send that to the VA or whoever you're trying to talk to replace what you're trying to do, you'll realize that it's actually not that bad, right?
Right. Yeah.
It just feels like a big thing until you get it down on paper and then you actually do the work to delegate it. And then once you have that and the person that you have is good or they're competent, then it lifts a lot off your shoulders and you can focus on what actually matters for your income the most. That's been my experience. It's uncomfortable at first. And then once you actually get out of your head and make the effort, take that first step to then delegate and finish it, then you realize that, okay, this isn't too bad. Maybe they have to tweak things here and there. It's not going to be perfect, but maybe the first time it's maybe 80% the way there, or that you still have to manage a little bit, but overall it's a huge net positive than before.
It gets kind of addictive, I'll tell you. Delegating, it's like at first you do everything yourself and then suddenly somebody else can help you and then you could pass stuff to them and they just get it done. And at first you're holding everything to yourself because you don't necessarily, I mean, for me, I think it's similar. Like I didn't want to pass it to somebody else because I knew that if I did it, I'd do it properly to my own standard and I would feel comfortable. But giving it to somebody else, I don't necessarily know up front if they're going to do it properly. But over time, I got more and more used to the idea of, hey, you know, there's lots of ways to do the same thing. Sometimes doing it differently doesn't mean it's less quality. It's just a different way. And if it gets the same outcome, that's okay as well. And so that was something for me that I started to see like, oh, okay, other people have different skills to me. For example, you know, my success manager at the dojo, right? The way she organizes things is different to the way I think about organizing things. And when I first started working with her, I was like thinking about that. I was like, oh, this spreadsheet doesn't look quite the way I had in mind. This doesn't look quite the way I had it in mind. This doesn't look quite the way. And I was like, actually, that's better. That's a better way to do it than what I had in mind. But at first, that like you have this sort of impression of it should be this way, right? So I think that's also something that copywriters will find useful and helpful in time. It's this idea that as you pass things off to other people when you're working in a team and leaning into their strengths and like allowing them to do what they do really well and just leaving it with them is good. And it's very, very addictive because you get a lot of stuff done without actually having to do it yourself. You know, just like we were just before we had this interview, we were like going back and forth between like the tech setup, just making sure like we're both ready to go with the tech, you know? And yeah, I think by the time we release this, it's been close to a year. It's crazy. I've been doing this almost a year already, but you know, a year ago when I first started these videos, I would be like, is this right? Is this, you know, like check everything. But it's just, the team just does everything now, which is great. My team just does it. You know, they take the video, they process it, they process our stuff, they make us look great, they Photoshop Bugattis into the background, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's just great. And it's like, I can just focus on having the conversation with you. And I wouldn't have been able to get to that point without a good team, but also without having to let go of stuff. And you'll see, I think a few copywriters listening to this, you'll also see this will show up in other ways. It's not just delegating. It's also being okay with how you are and how you look. So for example, there's moments in interviews or videos where I see myself and I'm like, oh no, no, that cannot be how I look. It's not possible. It's not how I look on camera. But I like learn to just accept it. I was like, whatever, you know? And by being able to just accept it's whatever, there's so much more flow. Whereas if every single time something just didn't quite look the way I had it in my head and I try to interfere with the process, we would never get anything done. We'd never produce anything. And I think a lot of clients as well, you've probably seen this as well, Florian, like with your clients. Maybe you've had a client in the early days that was very, very like nitpicky, micromanage everything. It's like, it's not helping your business to sit here and pay me $3,000 a month and then also like edit my email, every email, like for hours. Like you're paying me and then also spending your time and still not getting the results, you know, that's like no good. You gotta learn to let go.
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass for sure.
Yeah. So that's a big thing. But yeah, I had a couple other questions for you. I was thinking, you mentioned trust and intuition at some point earlier, and how that's really really important. I'd like to know a bit more about what you meant by that.
Sure. So I know when I first started in, let's say, this online marketing world, and I'd see all these people making a bunch of money, and I'd be like, oh, I want to be like them. They must have it so good. What do they have that I don't? And yeah, if they're making money, that does mean they're doing something you're not, and you got to figure that out. But at the same time, if you want sustainability over quick money, which this is the industry that attracts a lot of that quick money sort of mindset, is you got to have good intentions. And what I mean by that is
Yeah,
you
that's
just
the
got to
word.
be a good person at heart
Yeah.
and just do what's best for your clients at all times. And I mean, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that are making more money than, like, significantly more money than you, but they screw people over so badly and completely ruin the relationship with other founders or other entrepreneurs, which is what happened in my client's case, which is one of his executives kind of screwed him over. So, and that guy was making significantly more than me. And it just goes to show how, yeah, money is important, but the way that you get sustainable income is you have to be willing to be patient and just do what's right at all times, even if it might cost you like short-term gains, you could say. But I can't think of any real situation where that's the case as in the copywriter's case, unless you're just signing on as many clients as possible and you're just not really delivering for any of them, or you're just taking them on just to get another deal in, versus you're actually taking them on and taking care of them and making sure that they're getting the results, and that you're always there in communication with the business owner, and that if they pay you by mistake, or if there's like a subscription or something happening, that you have the integrity to cancel it, right? Or refund the money, which has happened to me in the past. Like, I had a retainer with another company with him, and I accidentally billed him for $2,500. And for that company, I was like, oh shoot. So I went back in there and refunded it immediately, right? Back to the CFO so they could see that. But, some people be like, oh, some money come in. I don't know if I want to, I'll let it
Yeah.
slide,
Yeah, yeah.
So even if it's, something that happens that benefits you, that's a mistake, but it's not the right thing. So
Yeah.
that's just a small example that's happened to me before. And things like that, right? Are you willing to actually put your client first and make sure they're taken care of, but at the same time, not lack boundaries in yourself, right?
Yeah.
So what that looks like is, yes, you do things for your client, which also could mean like, oh, like I'll provide extra value, right? Free of charge. But it also means that, hey, you have set boundaries where, okay, like if you want this new work done, it's going to be this much, right? So it's kind of finding that balance where you got to pick and choose. Okay, here I'm going to provide value. And then here I have a boundary. Okay, if you want more, then I'm charging, and that's non-negotiable.
Right.
So you got to be able to toe that balance of, yes, you want to cater to them at all times, but you don't want to be a doormat to where you're just working for free for a lot of things and you don't feel like you're getting rewarded for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. There's a lot of times that, I liked your example of, you could, okay, I think of another example similar. Like, let's say you have a deal with a client, right? And they ask you for, 10 email sequence. And then you write up, I don't know, let's say you write up 8 emails. And then that's the sequence you end up using. Do you charge them for the 10 emails? Do you not do you charge them for the 8 emails and correct your own stuff even though they're happy? Like these are the kinds of things, and they're small. And I think many people might say like, oh yeah, that's obvious, and I would never do that. But it shows up in other ways too, right? Where, for example, the amount of time that you actually give a funnel, the amount of time you actually give copy. Because like a sales page, you could write a sales page in 3 hours and just think to yourself like, that's good enough. But deep down, like if you wrote that sales page for 8 hours and you actually worked on that headline a little bit longer and you actually really tried, that sales page would probably create a lot more conversions. But you just want to get it out there and get the sale and move on. The irony of it all is like every single time that copywriters do these shortcuts, they actually sabotage their own career, don't they? Because if you get that crazy good results, that's going to get you a lot more clients than the 5 hours you saved that day that you can go and chill on the beach or something. It's like if you created impressive, I mean, we were talking before the call and you mentioned you helped a client in 1 month make like over $100,000 from email just in 1 month. Like imagine you had been just taking shortcuts that month and you only made them like 35 grand. Like you don't have that brag. You can't necessarily ever use that to talk to another business that's looking to hire somebody to help them with their email list. You can actually say, hey, look, I helped somebody generate over $100,000 in 1 month from their email list. That's going to open doors for you much more than, the 5 hours that you save by, whatever. So I definitely think that's a big part of it. And that's when you get the referrals. That's when you build relationships with people in the team. And our industry is very, very small. Like between the two of us, when we met, we have a lot of mutual friends. And you can meet another copywriter, and even if we've never met them before, within chatting for 5 minutes, you can probably find like 10 mutual friends or people that we share, or businesses we know. Same thing with businesses, that like they know the same things. They're sharing connections and relationships and stuff. So you go wrong with one of them, it's not good. I remember I had an agency deal early on in my career. I did this agency deal and they hired me for a test project. I think it was $400 or $500. I think it was in Australian dollars. I'm not quite sure how much it was in US dollars, but they did a trial project with me, and I didn't write the sales page to the way that they had in mind. Just I didn't get it. I definitely didn't put enough time into it. I think they didn't have a very clear process of what they wanted, but probably mostly a skill issue from my end. And the lady wanted to honor the agreement. She wanted to pay me, but I could see that they weren't happy with the page and they wanted revisions and stuff. And I said, like, look, I want to get paid when I deliver what you guys want. This is not about me taking bucks. I want to get you guys results. Let's just, that doesn't look like it's going to be a fit between us. Like the type of writing that doesn't, I think we had a 50-minute conversation. I said, and don't worry about that. Like, it's totally on me. I want to take on the risk. I said, I'll take on the risk. It's already enough because you got to go find somebody else to do this now. Let me see if I can introduce you or help you out, but I don't want to charge for it. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I think that there's somebody in the industry. I don't really know who they are. I can't remember their name, but maybe my name came up at some point, and maybe they said something positive about me because I wasn't trying to, you owe me, there's so many of these little games that people can play that's really sabotage. And I think the young people do it more. I think the older copywriters, look, there's exceptions, but I think the older copywriters, they've also got a bit more used to, they've got a bit more used to like not being trivial, but this stuff makes the biggest difference. It's funny how like we can talk about this stuff, and this is the stuff that actually matters to make 10K, 20K a month versus like, oh, what's the secret? What's the best outreach, Florian? Like, what's the best email outreach?
Yeah, I don't know. Figure it out, bro.
Yeah. It's like, it's not that. That's not the real secret. The real secret's relationship building. Do you have any things you wish you knew about relationship building that you didn't know when you got started?
Things that I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Let's say if I got started, I think the amount that you can build a relationship with your client is reflective of how well you've built a relationship with yourself in a way. And if you're willing to be vulnerable and willing to have more personal conversations and willing to put yourself on the line in a way instead of restricting yourself to just, oh, I'm the delivery guy for this copy project. And that's it. And so I think for me is just having a greater interest in people in general and what's going on in their life. And just think to yourself, who is the dream client? Like, what are they like? And then how would they be treating you? And of course, they'd be hooking you up. They'd be like, hey man, like, no worries. I got you with this. I got you with this. Like, oh, like you're trying to do this in fitness. Yo, I actually found a great resource on that. Check it out. So it's not just about business. It's about your entire life. So keeping something within business is a little limited when you could expand that to beyond that. And the way you do that is, I wish you could say, I wish I was more, I wish I opened myself up more to doing more of that, like being more curious about people in general. And that's where, for me, I'm more of an introvert. And that, well, just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you should be closed off. But again, it just means that it doesn't come supernaturally to you. So that's something that I think I knew in the beginning was, yeah, it's cool to make money and focus on, oh, how do I get the next big month? Instead of focusing on the money, you can think, how do I build that next relationship? How do I build that next connection? Instead of, how do I make this my record month? If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. I mean, most of the business I've generated over the years, probably $500,000 at this point, comes from relationships, between referrals, between introductions, between strategic partners, probably more at this point.
Yeah.
You know, most of my private clients, even from coaching, not even on the copywriting, like for writing copy side, even on the coaching side, I mean, I think even you and I, we started working together because of somebody else. I have a relationship with somebody else, and he said, Florian, you're going to chat with Matt. So there you have it. It's the same thing. I think that the more premium the business, the more upmarket, the higher the quality, the more likely you're going to get that deal from introductions and connections. And so if you want to get those big clients, it's all about relationships. 100% agree.
Yeah. The only reason I got that call for that 5-figure monthly offer was because I built that relationship over years. And because he literally said to me, you were the first person I thought of after that guy left.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he said, you've already been doing work for me for a few years. Like, I'm happy with your work. Are you open to this? So that's where it really pays off. And yeah, to get those really high premium retainers, that's what it's all about, is having integrity and having that emphasis on building relationships. And even if a client lets you go, still be an asset to their life, which happened to me as well. Earlier this year, I had a smaller retainer fall off because he wasn't generating the lead flow needed for the business. And even now I'm like, hey, you know, how's it going? Like, how are things doing? And, you know, he's still building himself back up, but I was like, oh, you know what? Are you using AI to write your own content? And he was like, yeah, I am. I said, oh, actually, let me create a video for you. I can help you, show you how to make AI write in your voice and to make content that sounds pretty good. Would you be open to that? And he said, yeah, bro, I appreciate it a lot. So I just sent value to him, and that's how you build the relationship, is providing value in things that they need. And I just thought of it. I'm like, hey, I personally am experimenting with AI, and I want to spend time on that too. So why not kill two birds with one stone and be like, I'm practicing with AI, but I'm also providing value to this business owner that was my previous client before. So it's literally a win-win. And that's just a recent example of something I did, right? And he really appreciated that.
That's very thoughtful. Yeah, I like that. It's a good perspective because a lot of people want to guard all their stuff. They don't want to help people with those things because, oh no, like well, in this case, if I show him how to use AI, he's definitely never going to need me as a copywriter. But wrong perspective, right? It's like even copywriters who have other junior copywriters in the team. It's like, oh, I don't want to train a junior because then he'll get so good, then he threatens my role. It's like, well, what's more valuable? Being able to write copy or also being able to help other people to write copy in the team? Like, what do you think is more valuable to the business? Creating a role that they're super dependent on you. If everything breaks, then it all falls apart. Or having a business where they actually can rest at night knowing, like, even if you step out of that role, they'll be fine. I think they'll appreciate you and value you more. The right people do. The wrong people maybe be like, oh, good, I can get a better deal somewhere else. But you don't want to work with those people in the first place.
No.
So
exactly.
yeah.
So, and yeah, just 1 second here. And even if that guy ends up using AI to write everything and says, oh, maybe I don't need anybody, that's totally fine too. Like, it's no sweat off my back. But now I've made a good impression to where, hey, this guy knows that I'm just always there providing value to him. And you never know who he knows and what conversations that he's having. And as your skills grow, you can do things that AI can't easily do. So it just builds on itself in that way.
yeah, well, maybe you're going to be able to help him with the stuff that you're doing for your current client at some point. Are you able to take the skills that you've developed and like now you got more like a full stack of marketing skills, and over the next few years I'm sure it'll be even more full stack, but maybe go to businesses and offer that at a premium rate? Because previously you could only offer copy, and then you got these skills, and now you can offer those skills as well, right? So
Yeah, exactly. That would be more of a where you're managing people. Yeah, that would be more of a approaching CMO type of thing. But yeah, I mean it's more involved, right? The more that you're involved in a business, the more you see, the more you hear. Now you're automatically becoming more valuable because you're seeing the entire ship versus just one room. And you can see how it works together. And then from there, yeah, you can go and see where there's problems and where there's problems in other businesses and transfer that over. And then of course get paid a lot more.
have you found that your copies got better since doing stuff that's not copy related?
Yes, actually, yeah. It sounds counterintuitive, but I think working on myself, just in my life in general, has made my copy better. And instead of looking at courses on how to get better at copy, you just go out and live your life a little bit more. And just experience new things. And that's a mindset shift that I've been having recently, is instead of super focusing on work, which you should look at courses to improve copy, and you should look at those resources. Obviously, you don't want to drop the ball on that. But if you want to just add a bit more that you can't get from courses, you want to make sure that you're living a fulfilling life outside of work too. So for me, like I picked up tennis as a hobby for the past almost year now. And I got more into other things too. Like I got into learning about different things like skincare or fashion, or learning German a bit better. Like I have Duolingo on my phone, learning how to do that.
Yeah, cool.
Photography, learning how to do that kind of stuff. And also health. So health and fitness, learning about gut microbiome, and cooking. Another big thing I'm doing is cooking a lot more and cooking my own meals and learning how to do that a bit better. So just in general, and of course, talking with friends outside of work and visiting, going places, doing things that are outside the norm. I think what that does is just opens your mind to new experiences, and then of course makes you more well-rounded, to which then you feel more confident actually going in and writing, and things can hit harder when you
100%
write from that place. Like I was in Switzerland with my cousins, and we were skiing. Like, we just skied for New Year's. And then after we skied in the morning, like 7 a.m. for a couple hours, I came back and then I just started writing for the promo for my client in December. And then was able to write pretty well because I felt energized and refreshed and got it done. And then after that, I packed up and went and hung out with the rest of the cousins, right? So it was
cool. Yeah.
like just being able to live your life and then using that to feed your business as well. It makes a difference, but I didn't realize how big of a difference it made until I actually started doing it. So instead of chasing like the courses and the money, we're focusing on that, more so chasing life experience and connections.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
That's the shift.
It's a big shift, and it's more complete, I think, because information, you also learn from the right people when you're around the right people. So if you have connections with the right people in the right industry, you don't necessarily need courses so much, because you can just drop a message, hey, anybody done this? And then people can like, oh yeah, I've done that, let's chat. And then you make a friend and you get the solution, instead of just sitting behind a wall, instead of sitting behind your desk in the dark after paying $2,000 for some course. You actually have made a friend as well. So it's much better. And I found the same thing when I started to travel. Like, I got my copy done much quicker. Like, I used to take a long time to write the copy, and then over time my sales copy got better, but it took longer because I was getting better. I was aware of what else I had to do to make it better. So it took a while. And then when I started traveling in Europe, and I went to Asia, I went to Japan, I just started writing from coffee shops, and in a couple hours I could get all my work done, and I still felt fresh. I would have the rest of my day, and then the next day I'd be even more re-energized because I've had a whole day of life. So I think a lot of copywriters are missing out on that if they don't, get the clients, increase your income, prioritize the relationships. But once you're making the good money, as soon as you can, you got to go get out there and get a couple of experiences. It brings richness to your life, but also makes your copy better because you're no longer just in your head all day. You're actually experiencing stuff, and you can bring a better perspective. Florian, it's been really great chatting, man. I really appreciate this. If people want to learn some secrets from you about copywriting and or want to potentially work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook. So that's where I spend most of my time in terms of just reaching out to new people. So that's just Florian Rustaller. There should be a link. Mm-hmm. And other than that, that's where I'm at mostly. And I have LinkedIn, but I don't use it that much. So I would say Facebook is the best place to find me in terms of business wise. I also have Instagram, but that's more of a lifestyle sort of thing.
They can watch, see how you cook.
Yeah.
And learn tennis.
Yeah, they can. Why not?
Sounds good. Cool, man. Well, thanks so much again for joining me today and chatting with me, and I'll chat with you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. It was fun.
Yeah, well, it's great. Take care.
Thank you.